Welcome back to my channel Celebuzz. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. Remarkable findings from the autopsy report of Pope Francis. Pope Francis's situation calls into question the seriousness of as the supposedly leaked autopsy results start to contradict the calm official story given by the Vatican. Goodbye has become a terrifying and scary mystery. Despite the Vatican's public proclamation that Pope Francis died of a heart attack, forensic evidence and purportedly leaked papers paint a far darker and more complicated picture. Leaked records indicate that a stroke did happen, but it was only the last straw and not the main reason. Acute pulmonary edema, fluid accumulation in the lungs, an untreated return of pneumonia, and a substantial amount of sedative medicines were the real circumstances that led to his death. The original press releases from the Vatican omitted all of these crucial information. Complications from uncontrolled fluid collection and respiratory collapse most likely expedited death. Farewell, Pope Francis. There is always a leader in every age whose farewell speech is more than that. The life they lived is reflected in them. Pope Francis, who once advocated for a church that catered to the poor, did not depart this world with political manifestos or great proclamations, but rather with something far more powerful, a simple expression of gratitude. None of it was scripted. Nothing was staged. It was born out of a spirit that had spent all its days in the company of the broken, the abandoned, and the loyal, walking in humility. I need your assistance first, though, before we do that. It would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe and help me accomplish my goal of 30,000 subscribers by the year's end. The last performance, a parting present for the loyal. Despite Pope Francis's deteriorating health, he defied expectations and made an unexpected appearance in St. Peter's Square on Easter Sunday. There was no pressure to do it. There was no chance for a picture op, a blessing. He wanted to give his loved ones one more embrace. As his health deteriorated, Francis whispered to Massimiliano Stretti, his long-term nurse and healthcare helper, and said, "Do you think I can manage it?" Amidst the sea of faces waiting to catch a farewell glimpse of the shepherd they had watched for years, the Pope traveled in the Pope Mobile, smiling, waving, and receiving gentle encouragement from Stretti. Emotion permeated every corner. For an instant it seemed as though the heavens were drawing near, catching its breath as the sun pressed down on the old stones. Gratitude entwined with farewell, the final words. Francis returned his attention to Stretti when the last applause, camera cuts, handshake, and blessing had subsided. "I am grateful that you brought me back to the square," he replied, his voice faint but warm. Uncomplicated, elegant, unforgettable. Francis might be described in a nutshell by just 6 words. No matter how unassuming, his gratitude for service is profound. His modesty in appreciating the unsung heroes. His firm conviction that appreciation, not command, is the ultimate leadership act. The peaceful hours, a slow slipping away. Pope Francis retired to his private quarters for a well-deserved rest. In the company of people who had attended to him during his last days, he had a peaceful meal. Peace and presence alone, without political maneuvering or hurried decisions. Signs of an unexpected sickness surfaced first thing the next morning. The team moved with grace and silence, honoring his need for privacy. Francis, just as softly as he had lived, slipped into a coma shortly before making a little, unambiguous, sign of goodbye to Stretti. A little nod, a faint grin. A goodbye that needed no words, his soul finding its way back to the God he had loved with all his heart. Did Pope Francis experience any pain in his final days? How did he feel? The response from his closest associates is unambiguous and oddly reassuring. No, he didn't. Expert, medical opinion. Avoidance of pain at all costs. Following Pope Francis's passing, the Vatican sought the advice of Dr. Sergio Alfieri, who had the greatest grasp of the medical facts. No nebulous guarantees were offered by Dr. Alfieri. He spoke from the heart and was quite explicit. In the comfort of his own home, he passed away. All the indicators were there when Alfieri arrived at Francis's bedside. All eyes were on the Pope. Supplemental oxygen was being inhaled by him. However, medics employed painful stimuli to determine if he was aware, but he remained unresponsive. Francis had already in a coma, according to the results. It denoted that he experienced a state of complete tranquility, free from terror, anguish, or pain. Supported by the present physicians and witnesses, the official declarations of the Vatican reiterated this fundamental fact. Those who were there during his last moments said he was painless. There was no public outcry or prolonged pain since everything transpired so swiftly and covertly. In a society when so many people lose their honor just before they die, Francis managed to keep it all. Final hours schedule, a peaceful, quick exit. Like any other night, Francis had a simple meal, prayed quietly, and got ready to sleep the night before. No one screamed, and emergency medical personnel did not dash through the Vatican hallways in response. There were faint indications of trouble at 5:30 a.m. As a last token of his appreciation, he bid farewell to his nurse. He fell into a coma within the hour. Pope Francis left about 7:35 in the morning. There was no commotion, no dramatic medical procedures, and no use of tubes. Nothing but silence and the prayers of his loved ones. It was explained simply by Dr. Alfarieri. It was a stroke of genius that can whisk you away in the blink of an eye. Although that may sound clinical, Francis considered it a blessing. I need your assistance first, though, before we do that. It would mean a lot to me if you could subscribe and help me accomplish my goal of 30,000 subscribers by the year's end. A public discussion on mortality. Heaven is our last destination. In his last years as Pope, Francis frequently and openly discussed death, not out of fear but of holy expectation. Our destination is paradise, he informed the throng in one of his open presentations. His analogy was that of a seed that in order to grow must first be buried, assuring the faithful that they still have time to experience life's greatest moments. The golden years are ahead, he told the elders. Our entire existence seems to be like a seed that must be buried before it may sprout and bear fruit. It will enter this planet at the same time as all other things. Despite the fact that it will be born through painful labor, it will happen. He wasn't trying to provide superficial solace. A man whose spirit was filled with optimism urged everyone, but notably those whose lives were drawing to a close, to center themselves on the things that really matter: love, compassion, and faith. Francis had the belief that these basics become glaringly obvious when one is near death. Respect before pomp. Upon his ascension to the popeship, Pope Francis preferred humility. He requested a straightforward disposition for his funeral. He preferred that people look at Christ and not at him. No grandiose rituals, no ostentatious displays of wealth or power, just a simple, unadorned, joyous celebration of the Christian faith in the power of resurrection. The proposal made by Francis was groundbreaking, especially for a church that is sometimes ridiculed for its lavishness. A farewell sermon on hope, sincerity, and humility was delivered from the tomb itself, rather than from a pulpit. In his final remarks to the public, he pleaded for calm. Despite his weakened health and voice, Pope Francis remained steadfast in his purpose, even at his last public visit. Despite his speech impediment, his message resounded. Put down your weapons and engage in conversation. It was the last gasp of a man who had witnessed too much suffering to give up on the possibility of unity and the inherent worth of every human being, even as he faced certain death. A murmur of defeat did not accompany his departure. A last act of leadership based on kindness rather than strength, it was a rallying call for reconciliation.